Hey all, it's Mooch. Let's see if we can get this thing working. Let me know. I've got that chat going on down here. Let me know if you can hear me at all. This is the first time trying this, and I've got, of course, volume coming from this. Let's see now. My apologies for this. There's no good way to really test this out. And I've got the chat rolling across here, which I don't want, because I can read it here, nice and zoomed in for my old eyes. Video rotated. Wait. Okay, I'm seeing it here in landscape looking normally. Oh, I see. What the? So I have to do this. That makes no sense for it to show it to me correctly. And then tell me I have to rotate. It said rotate to go live in landscape mode. That's just silliness. And of course I got this big delay watching here, so I'll have to keep an eye on chat. Much better. Accelerometer buggered? No, it's a YouTube thing, Dan. Look, okay, as long as I'm vertical and, and people can hear me, that's good. This thing I want to get rid of. I want to switch to one of these. Like, I didn't need AirPod 2s or something like that, but these are supposed to have really good voice quality, and I don't need music pods or anything like that. Okay, so hopefully I can use this next time, because this I always end up hitting with my hands and just chopping my ears. All right, now I've still got volume coming from the laptop. Now where are the hotkeys for that? Okay. Let's see if we can get that, get the volume down for that. My apologies to you guys. Oh, okay, off didn't work. Okay, I gotta go to this. Yes, they're for $10 reading glasses. And we can get this volume turned down on the laptop. And I can, the stuff that I would want to have tested ahead of time, but interesting that, aha. Okay, I think that did that. Can you go, can y'all still hear me? Okay, cool. Happy Wednesday, all. Welcome to the Power Hour. Bo Pedersen, one of my patrons. Oh, wait, was it Bo? I'm sorry. Who am I messing up? Oh, no. I'm sorry, I forgot. But one of my patrons had the idea for the Power Hour, which I thought was brilliant. And so I immediately stole that. And hopefully we'll do this once for a lunchtime thing. If anyone really shows up, if it ends up being worthwhile, because I think it's a lot more convenient for the EU and tolerable for Asia. And then maybe come on like 7 p.m. Sunday or something before Not Another Vape Show, just 1 hour, boom, get out of the way, let those guys have their fun. And that could be more for the US audience or something. But we'll see how that can work out. And let's see if we can say hello to a few people. Dallas Vapor, David Humston, Brendan Coviello. Thank you, sir. Yeah, there's a localized gravity well. It keeps pulling my hat down. Maverick, thanks for joining us. Mike Berg, Bo, How are you? Ambitions, what's up? Derek. Sometimes the landscape can glitch out before you go live, and then you're set to the mode you have, can't change. Yeah, it's funny, and I started up, Derek, I started up YouTube in landscape, and it said, hey, you know, go live in portrait or, you know, rotate to go landscape, and but didn't work. So I guess I can do a live, but keep it private, and then go back and look at it, something like that. Let's see who else we have here. James Corellis. Can I make this even larger? My eyes are so bad. I know I'll get a decent pair of reading glasses. I just hate having them on my face if I don't need them. Jason Butler, Bill Richards, welcome. Maverick Gaming, thanks for joining us. Is that MGS V or 5? Hello, Dallas Vapor. Hello. Daniel, DJ LSB Vapes, thanks for joining us, dude. DM, thanks for coming. Tracy Kennedy, Brian Feeney, everybody. V-Dog, what's up, dude? Thank you all for joining me. And what we do is, my patrons will come up with a couple of topics, a couple of questions for the beginning of it. If I have any particular rants, I'll be going over some of that at the start, and then we'll jump into chat questions, and we'll do that. If you have any questions now, I'm not going to see them, so hold on to them. Now, when you do ask, I ask that you preface the question with Battery Mooch, any way you want to say it, in all caps, just so I can easily sort out which are the questions and which are just you all hanging out and chatting between each other. And the first one that I had was, did you think live would be so big? These? I've been working out. Working out for me is a couple of little dumbbells. That's it. That's all I have time for now. The Essentially, what are hemp batteries? Or are hemp batteries anything that could end up being of use to us or even to anybody? You know, is hemp a thing for batteries? And I didn't know much about it. I'd read a little bit about it. Oh, excuse me. Ha. Huh. Let's back up. You see, this is with the newbies. You know, people like me come on, think we know what the hell we're doing, and then we just screw up. We can't even get landscape right or wrong. We got some fracking dumbass headphone things, and then we forget to do the buffet. It's pathetic. It just... Oh, I don't know why we're allowed on air. Anyway, got the clutch running a Goon 1.5. I've been enjoying that with a really nice peach pineapple thing. I'm feeling kind of spring. Actually, I was really enjoying it until I decided to take a sip of coffee right after a hit. That did not work out well. And then I'm going to be switching to the eFusion Duo with an intake dual for the rest of the day. And I'm just going to be putting in here, very simple, it's just 70 VGE with a touch of mint, just because when I'm zooming through the day, when I'm stressed out, which is when I need to vape. If I'm all chill, I usually not even thinking about vaping because I'm hanging out with friends or I'm watching YouTube videos or something, except if I get a new juice, then I'm all over that. But so for me, it's more the hand to mouth, my oral obsession to get rid of any urges, just take a walk outside. And so for this, with a tank and something really, really inexpensive, like just 70 VG with a touch of mint, is fine, and I save a ton of money. And then when I go back to a full juice, it's just this incredible pile of flavor, which I love. Oh yeah, and this with a 30T actually, with what have I got here? 0.17s, pair of dual Claptons at 0.17. Usually you think a single battery in a mech at 0.17, you're not going to get that hard a hit, but it's good enough. This is surprisingly hard hitter, even though you lose about 4 watts through this at 30 amps. It's working out well for me, probably about a 75, 80 watt vape with this, which is fine for me. That's what I'm looking for here. Hemp batteries. Quick thing here. If anybody is... You guys are asking questions. Don't ask questions yet, because I won't be reading it, even though I'm just reading it now. By the way, will you be updating your battery charts for suggested batteries? Whatever is there is the latest one. Anything that's up there is always the latest of what I have on my blog at ECF. The links are on my Facebook page. So that's the latest I have for recommended. It doesn't get updated much. and hemp batteries. Now, from what I can find out, there are no, at least widely available hemp-based batteries. So we should probably, not probably, we are going to talk about what is a hemp battery. Now, the hemp, well, you know, a plant that could be used for all kinds of purposes, and it's finding a lot of new uses in terms of structural reinforcement for plastics of the fibers, using the fibers themselves to make anything from rope to shoes to all kinds of stuff. Now, there's a waste, which I think is called SHIV, S-H-I-V. It's essentially the inner bark, and it's just tons of that stuff laying around that is unused in the processing of hemp for other purposes. Now, an intrepid group of people back in, I think, 2014, Dr. David Maitland and his crew decided to take that and you bake it. And what you do is you want to turn it into carbon because that's what they want to use inside the battery. Because the batteries we use an oxide of metal, and then they use carbon, and the ions go back and forth between these rusted metals, the powders, and the carbon. Now, you take the hemp, you bake it a very special way, and you drive off everything else except the carbon, and then you soak it in solvent. It's not a clean process. You soak it in solvent to get rid of some things, lignin and other things, and you're left with what they found out is a structure very similar to graphene, namely thin sheets. And that's fantastic because if you just get a block of carbon, the ions can't find their way through that. Now you grind the particles down, but each particle is still the size of millions of atoms, and those ions just can maybe stick to the outside, go in a little bit into it. But if you get thin sheets, you can just line the ions up in between them. And that's why graphene, which you may have heard about, is so fantastic. Because innate to its manufacture is it comes off in ultra thin sheets, as thin as one atom, but you can make them very thin, any different thicknesses and stuff. The nice thing about using hemp to make the carbon for the battery, which what holds the ions when the battery is charged, the metal oxide powder is what holds everything when the battery is discharged. So you want to hold everything in this carbon form, which is graphite for most batteries, just ground up chunks of graphite, same thing you might find in a pencil, purer though. You can get graphene, which is very expensive, but holds a lot of electrons, or now hemp. And they found out when you process the hemp, you get this fantastically efficient store of ions when you want to move in there. Whereas if you take something like, I think I saw mentioned bananas, which is banana peels, that's a waste product. If you're making something with bananas, you've got a lot of banana skins. When they do the same kind of process to banana skins, you're left up with chunks of carbon that they have to grind down. And it's really no better than just making graphite and grinding it down to particles. Now, the hemp, you still have to grind down, but each particle has those sheets on it. Because what you do is for each particle, you want to mix them with something conductive to make it easier to snake its way, the ions to snake their way through the particles. A whole bunch of other little things they have to do. But so the hemp itself isn't, a hemp battery isn't a chunk of hemp that is just stuck with some fluid and then you run it as a battery. It's the negative part of the battery, the anode of the battery, and it's the carbon that forms there. And they found back in 2014 that it's incredibly efficient. And they started making ultracapacitor prototypes because ultracapacitors can use that for both sides, and you're just storing electrons and shuttling them back and forth as you charge it. You got two plates, metal with the hemp powder, metal, piece of plastic in between. And I actually have this if I need it. Isn't it cute? I was tired of standing in front of the big board, so I bought a little one. We'll see if I need it. And so for the capacitor, this is fantastic because they found out they can charge and discharge very quickly, but there's very little of that hemp there. And it had all the characteristics they wanted. And one really nice thing about the hemp is it's like 1,000th the price of graphene, which has to be made in a very specialized process. So there are a lot of attractive things about that. Now for a hemp battery, they're replacing that one portion. For everything else I can find out, a hemp battery is just a standard lithium-ion battery, but they're using hemp to make the carbon for the negative portion of the battery. Now, Robert Murray Smith, on YouTube, has a fantastic channel on almost like homemade batteries. How to make your own batteries, how to make ultracapacitors, conductive inks, all kinds of things. And they're in the middle of a multi-year project to develop some incredibly high energy, super energy dense batteries. And he had some fantastic results using hemp for the negative portion of it. Now, I'm not a member of his channel, and so some videos are blocked from me, but he has some instructions for making hemp batteries. He does a comparison between hemp batteries and lithium-ion batteries. But from what I understand, hemp batteries are lithium-ion batteries. You're using lithium ions to go back and forth. But maybe he uses a different metal or something like that, and different electrolytes, the liquid in between. So I can't find out enough information to really know what's going on. But for the question that was asked me by my patron, hemp batteries, I can't find any big commercial use for them yet. I think there's some opportunities there. I think they can, if they find a way to get thousands of tons of hemp fiber to a factory reliably, and then they can get consistent results in making this hemp powder that you use inside a battery, then hemp has a chance. You've got to keep it super duper inexpensive. It has to be really consistent. Somebody like Samsung isn't going to buy, 500,000 tons of hemp powder every year unless it is spectacularly well controlled during manufacture. So I think it's there, but I can't find anyone doing any big uses for hemp batteries now. But I'm hopeful for the future because graphene's amazing, but it's expensive, and we want to see technologies like this be used as cheaply as graphite, so we can have more energy dense batteries, namely pack in more more capacity, but still at the same price, the same size, etc., without paying the price for a graphene battery. I think I'll check into chat for just a second. What's going on here? Have a vape, get some water. Mike Vapes, dude, what's up? Mike, just get a local gravity well. It pulls down the hat automatically and stuff. And dude, I'm totally digging the goon on the clutch. It's funny. With a fresh 30T bike, you're up there. This thing, it hits really hard. You look at the numbers when I did the voltage drop test, but I like this. And it's got a great weight with a 21700 in it too. Let's see. Ah, Big Red. Yes, hemp batteries and bananas. I mean, they both start with B. Of course, they're going to be talking together. Mooch is the Bob Ross for Vapour, soothing way of talking. Thank you. I've only watched Bob Ross a couple of times. I never really appreciated him until I hit like 40. Maybe I should blow that in a different direction. My laptop has the fan and it's going, what the is going on right now? Okay. Just seeing if there are any big names, anything big going on. Dayo, Switzerland. Hello, thanks for joining us. Folks, I'm not going to see these questions until I get to the questions. SD heard hemp and woke up. Mike, who do you think I went to for all the research? I didn't look this stuff up online. Just called up ST, kind of shook him awake and stuffed another blunt in his mouth and told me everything I need to know about the stuff. Because he's got the pile of hemp out back, the hemp residue that he's trying to sell off for batteries. That's why he wanted to talk to me about that. He's got all that hemp fiber residue out back from all the hemp processing he does. And he started that hemp battery rumor to be able to sell that stuff. I want to cut. Oh, he got me. Okay. The next question, and some people thought it might have been clickbait, is what, and this is from Sean Damerel, or Damerel, one of my patrons, and he was asking the question, why, when all the major manufacturers except Molicel don't want us using those batteries, why would we recommend anything other than Molicels? Especially since Molicels are really good cells for higher power use. Why would we recommend a Samsung or a Sony or an LG, Sanyo or Panasonic? And this one is actually a very simple question. In some countries, Monocells just aren't available. In a lot of places, it's just not easily purchased. They're not widely available worldwide. So there's still a need to recommend other batteries. And some people may just say, I hate the name, I hate the wrap, whatever reason they have, they don't want to buy Monocells. Now, Klej, Klejjs, tough to say, but it's a Molicel P26A rewrap. That's being released for the Asia market. So hopefully that starts to increase availability. But why recommend non-Molicels? We can't buy Molicels everywhere. So I'm still going to be recommending Samsung, Sony's, LG's, Panasonic, and Sanyo's where it's appropriate. And also for low power use, mouth-along vapors. If you're at under 30 watts or something, getting a 5,500 milliamp, 5,000 milliamp per hour, 21700 or 5,500 milliamp per hour, 26650 is still a better option than going for the Molicels. Now, hopefully, Molicel sees the energy market as something they want to get into, and they take the 4200 mAh P42A and they pack that thing up to, I don't know, considering the technology and the skill they have, I'd love to see, 6,000 or something come out of them next year. I don't know. I'll bug them a little about that, see what happens. And that is everything for this. Let's see what we get, kind of mischief we can do in chat. Niji, yeah, he has been. Robert Murray Smith has been trying different things, and that's the way to do it. Long-term commitment to really figure out what's going to work best and what can be commercialized. That's what's really, really important. You've got these hemp batteries and all these lab developments, and they're all fantastic. And we see all these different sodium batteries and aluminum air batteries and all these things, but they have to survive commercialization. And 99.9% of these great lab developments never make it into a product, or not in the original form. They get combined with something else, or they get modified over the years, because they've got to be affordable. It has to be easy enough to make. You can't require a billion-dollar investment for a whole new factory. You want it to integrate into existing processes for a manufacturer to pick it up. They're not going to commit to a whole new factory and a whole new process just to start a new battery out for some kind of improvement, unless it's a monumentally fundamental improvement. And things like cycle life, voltage range, all these other things start to matter and make it really, really difficult for a new technology, new battery technology, to make it into production. And always remember, we're seeing all these announcements the past year, 2 years, whatever, for all these amazing batteries coming up. Solid state batteries. You can cut it with scissors while it's running and it still runs. But remember, the batteries we're using now is the only thing that made it to market from all the big announcements made 5, 10 years ago. All we've had are the incremental improvements, because those are the only things that survive the commercialization process. Now, solid state batteries, I'm excited for those, and they will make it to the market. Okay, that was interesting, because I'm looking at the phone and I swear I just saw someone walk behind there. That's what happens when you hang out with ST too much. You get that contact high and you just start hallucinating and seeing things. Oh. All right, so let's try some questions. Okay, Mike Incroat. My grandmother used to put AA and AA batteries in the refrigerator. Does this help with life, or just an old Italian thing? It's an old everybody thing. It doesn't help. It really doesn't help. Batteries are meant to be used. And the batteries I have now, if you buy, AA's, Energizers or something, Duracells, from a store that has decent turnover, you look at the batteries and they have a use-by date 10 years from now. They've gotten so good with that, you don't need to put them in the refrigerator. You get problems because you pull them out of the fridge, you get the condensation on them. It's just not worth it. Same with lithium-ion. It's really not helping at all. Let's see, any questions? Backing up just a little bit. Put battery mooch in the beginning, preferably in caps, so these old eyes can see that. Sarah's battery mooch, I stayed home and didn't join my crew on the Kuwait bike show just because of you, dude. Always love to hear from you and your videos. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. And my apologies to the Kuwait bike crew, but hopefully they understand. Okay, let's go down to the end. Wondering if YouTube is going to target Mooch or the latest campaign against vaping as dangerous activities. I don't know. I've got like about a dozen videos have been demonetized, and I'm guessing it's because they figured out it was for vaping, or maybe I have something in the description, or one of the keywords is something that they're keying off. Hopefully not. You know, I only get a few thousand views, but I enjoy the $30 a month I get from YouTube. That buys a couple of batteries, sometimes even 3 or 4. MGSV, yeah, put battery Mooch at the front. That way it shows up on it. But Mooch, do you think the rumors are true that Toyota is going to debut solid-state batteries this year? Boy, the technology is right on the edge of being commercially viable. From what I've seen, though, well, actually, from what I've seen, that's a really important statement, because if you've got a really kick-ass tech that you're commercializing and you're going to put in a product, you're not going to tell anybody about it. Someone like Toyota, because they have the capital. They don't need to get venture capitalists or anything that these labs might do. The lab says, hey, we got this technology. We want to spin off a company, develop it, make millions of dollars, retire. Bang. But Toyota will say, whoa, we're not going to tell anybody about this. So maybe something's been ready for a couple of years and they just need to do all the technology to get it into a battery pack. I wouldn't be surprised if later this year there was an all solid-state battery pack. My understanding is, though, that they're very low capacity batteries, but that just means you have to stack up more active elements before you wrap it in the pouch, make modules out of it, put the modules into a battery pack. So I can totally see that on there. And certainly if they did something, it would be this monstrous amount of capacity on it. Now, we're not going to see any of those cells, and they're probably going to be pouch cells, because 100% of whoever is making their cells is going to go to Toyota. But a couple years down the road, this kind of stuff is what makes it to us. Whoa, this thing gets really jumpy. Let's see. Phil Lee, just a week until I'm 3 years smoke-free. Congratulations. That's franking awesome. Nathaniel Mayo is asking, how are home techs? I tested the entire line just a few weeks ago. You can check my pin post on my Facebook page for my well, it's actually none of them are in the recommended batteries tables. And that doesn't mean they're not recommended. It just means I have others that are recommended higher because they're more available worldwide. And that's really important for part of what comes with recommending batteries, availability. Now, most of them tested pretty well. The HomeTech 26650 was the same as some of the other decent performing ones. Their home life looks and performs exactly like a 30Q, so you know there's performance there. They have a new home life coming out though. The Home Run and Home Run XL performed decently well for where they're being positioned. I still recommend 30Ts as the hardest hitting battery possible. Samsung 20Ss for mechs if you need hardest hitting. P42As for just about everything, but certainly for mechs a little better than the 40Ts. VTC 5As or 5Ds, or actually Molicel P26As for regulated use at moderate power levels. For low power levels, there's some other options like the Samsung 30Q, VTC 6, a lot lower than that. Then there's some other options. You can go to the recommended batteries table and check those out. You're not going to go wrong with home techs at all, but they don't have anything different that no one else has, that anyone else has. They're decent batteries. Stefan Sard, what's up? Battery, okay, let's see. Robert Reagan, what about the clutch? Okay, you didn't put Mooch in the beginning there. I wish they had gone with silver or silver-plated negative contact 510 on the clutch. Well, the negative contact is silver on the clutch. For what touches the plate, up the top, all the way down the side around, that's a solid silver bar. Now, what's the other part that goes to the 510, that's a brass plate. On it. From conductivity maintenance standard, all silver, then going down through the conductivities. Well, going from, now for maintenance, perhaps a little bit better, silver over brass, but the conductivity differences, even though silver can be said to be a lot more conductive than brass, for a tiny piece of thick metal, it's not making any difference. If you've got 7 micro ohm resistance for the silver and a 15 micro ohm resistance for the brass, you could say, oh, the brass is twice the resistance, twice the power loss. But the power loss for the brass might only result in a thousandth of a volt drop through the contact. Now, I'm not talking at the contact point, I'm talking about through the metal itself. So the difference between a thousandth of a volt loss through a piece of brass or a 1/2 of a thousandth of a volt loss through all silver contact block, it's just not making any kind of practical difference for us. And this is what's really important when you look at metals. The choice of metal for mech is the smallest, has the smallest effect on the voltage drop because there's usually so much metal involved. Now, for that contact strip that goes around, yes, I'm glad that's silver, and the different silver alloys that could be even more conductive, or you can make it thicker or something like that. But if you have a tube mech and you've got all that metal and you've got, micro ohms difference between the different metals, it's just not making a difference. The threads, the contact points, the smoothness, like with the clutch, I just used a Scotch-Brite pad to smooth out the high points on the contact with the clutch, and I got a 20% lowering of the voltage drop. So that's where the opportunities are there. Now, the things you can do up at the top, like machining it out of a solid block instead of 2 pieces and things like that, reshaping contact shapes, all kinds of things that they can do. But for the metal itself, I wouldn't say that would make any difference. Let's see. Whoa, how do you stop bouncing around? Memo, and is that B3 or 83? Okay, I give up. This is the wrong pair. And the problem then is you need reading glasses for, oh, where is everything? For the different distances. That's what $3 buys you. Okay, so nice there. Oh, the plate being silver or silver plate. Robert Riggin, it's solid silver. So it can be maintained without any worry, and the plate up at the top is solid brass, so there's no problem there. Memo 83, thank you for everything you do to help community. Cheers from Lebanon. Thank you for joining us. Stop scrolling. Fine Clue, hello from Serbia. Hello, thank you for joining us. Mitch asked, does the thickness of wrap make a difference? Well, yes, actually, because some mods, the battery's already a fairly tight fit, particularly tube mechs. It's a tight fit. So if you go to a double wrap or thicker wrap, for some devices, that is a problem. But it's unique to that device. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with the wrap. It only changed, I did some tests, it only increased the temperature of the battery like 2 degrees Celsius at high power levels. So it's not like an insulating blanket or anything like that. It also extends the length a little bit in addition to the diameter. So if you've already got batteries a little bit snug, a thicker wrap could be a problem, but that'll be unique or something that you have to check with your particular mod. MGSV, thank you, sir. That's what I get for dressing so quickly. MGSV was kind enough to point out that my fly was open. That's a perfect way to start your first. And can you imagine if I couldn't find my glasses and I'm standing there just, okay. Mike Vapes, we are working on a copper hybrid upgrade kit with no screws. Awesome. That sounds fantastic. Battery Mooch from Brendan Coviello. Does it make any difference besides capacity what battery we use in regulated devices? Hell yes. You can't use a 5 amp battery at a 200 watt mod at 200 watts, two 5 amp batteries and a 200 watt mod at 200 watts, drawing whatever it is, the 38 amps or something out of each battery. Yes, the mod has some protections for itself until the battery gets to a low enough voltage, and you've got to hope that everything goes fine. But yes, it absolutely make a difference. It not only for safety, but a low rated battery performs like crap. You might make it down to only 60-70% of capacity before every time you hit it, it drops, sags all the way down to the cutoff voltage, and you can't use the battery anymore. So picking, no matter what type of device you use, picking the right battery for the way you vape is important, not only for safety, but for performance and for the overall life of the battery. Even if a 5 amp battery doesn't blow up, and even if you're willing to pull out your battery when it drops to only 70% because it sags too low below that, the way, how hard you're pulsing that battery is going to give you very short battery life, overall battery life, the number of cycles. So just, if just multiply the current level by 3 to get a rough idea of the wattage you can do. So 20 amp battery, don't go over 60 watts. You'll get better performance if you stay under 45. If you've got a 25 amp battery like the P26A, that's 75 watts, yeah, I can do it. Better performance if you stay under 50. There's never a boom this or boom that. It's always just a sliding scale of worse and higher risk as the current level goes up for whatever battery you're using. Higher and higher risks, lower and lower cycle life, lower and lower performance. But it is important to match the battery to the way you vape. That complicates our lives. Nobody wants to hear that. But this is batteries. This is what you have to deal with. It only takes a minute or two at the beginning, and then you never have to worry about it again because you've got the battery you need for the way you vape. Costello, please put battery mooch at the beginning. What's the best Brillo pad to use? Scotch-Brite, heavy-duty pads, not the regular Scotch-Brite pads, B-R-I-T-E. Watch any of my recent videos. I pull out the pads. You can see they're really rough scrapers. Do not use them on a polished mech. It will no longer be polished, but it's great for contacts to bring down high points. Huh. MGS. Okay, let's see. Vape Master Chris, battery mooch. I have a Brizzo and the battery contact on the switch is a little crooked. Is this normal? Does that make a difference if the contact point isn't flat? And Brizzo's side firing, right? So you're saying that the arm isn't hitting flat against it? Well, the more contact area you have, the lower the resistance. If you've got... Oh, goody, I get to use the whiteboard. If you've got a contact coming in for something ridiculous like that, all your power is going through there, and that's a very high resistance. If you can do something like, helps if you get an eraser. If you can do something like this, if you've got these two coming together, now your current is spread over a much larger area, and that's a lot lower resistance. So you want the contact surfaces, if they're straight, you want them to be parallel. If they're both curved, like this, then they can come at different angles and still touch. But if they're both perfectly straight, then one coming in like this, that's a higher resistance. You're losing power, and you get more arcing at that point because there's more current. All the current's going through one point, where if you can go like this, here I have 4 contact points. Now there's, ideally, 1/4 the current for each contact point, less arcing damage. A lot of people asking questions without putting battery mooch in the front. Microfix. Please put battery mooch at the front. Please. When are you going to give a full review of that BK Precision battery analyzer? I would get 4 views from that, and it would take me 2 hours to do the review of that. It's an astounding little machine. It really helps to sort out things for some of the confidential testing I'm doing for some companies. Mitch Connor, do you think solid-state batteries will replace the lithium batteries? Well, solid-state batteries are lithium batteries. What makes them solid-state is the liquid that's inside is turned into a gel or into a solid, a ceramic or a glass, and the plastic sheet that's between the positive and negative part in the batteries we use now is replaced with ceramic or glass on it, and then the whole thing becomes solids. Now they can also grow through the same process that they put down layers for solid state electronics. You can grow the layers of the positive and negative portion. That's something else. I don't know which solid state battery you're talking about there, but for the true solid state batteries, eventually they might. But right now they're so expensive, very low current ratings. It's too early to really say what's coming on. I think what they'll be is what we call energy cells. Namely, they're made not to deliver big bursts of power, but to deliver lots and lots of energy for a very long time at a very low level. The kind of thing you'd use for energy storage. You have a solar farm that stores up huge amounts of power in batteries during the day, a solar farm, excuse me, that stores up power in batteries during the day. You got the solar panels and everything collecting, charging up batteries, and then at night you release that over 12 hours, 8 hours, whatever you want to do. Where a power cell is something, whoosh, you're charging it quickly, and whoosh, you're coming back out. Something you'd use to accelerate an electric motorcycle or something like that. Jason Butler, the battery chargers that say they can reinvigorate your batteries, is that a gimmick or any truth to that tech? Well, I got to learn not to blow this here. And I have the fan on too. It's just a 2-hour topic. Reviving battery. Any battery that goes below 2.5 volts can, it's possible for it to be damaged because you're below the battery's rating. It often doesn't happen till it's a certain amount of time, or you get down to much lower than that. You go to 2.4 volts, your battery isn't screwed. But because, how to phrase this, nothing really just changes for a battery going to a lower and lower voltage. There's just this, possibility of damage. So reinvigorating a battery just means, or reviving or reconditioning a battery just means charging it very slowly, very carefully, not to upset the battery, and bring it back up to maybe 3 volts, and then going to full charge rate. So that as a concept is perfectly viable, and I have designed chargers that use, like the chips from Texas Instruments, that have this feature for getting, dead cells, reviving dead cells, and they just go very slow rate and bring it back up. As someone who's asked about that, is it safe to do? Is it okay to do? I can never say yes, it's okay, and I recommend not doing it because I don't know the condition of the batteries that someone's trying to revive with this charging feature. As a concept, yes, you can recharge a battery that's been over discharged. Can I guarantee that will always be safe for everybody forever and ever? No. Somebody is going to catch a battery on fire. If a battery goes too low in voltage for too long, the copper, one side has aluminum, one side has copper, both have goop on it with plastic in between. The copper actually starts dissolving below a certain voltage, and the longer you spend at too low a voltage, the more copper that goes through and gets dissolved into the battery. Now when you charge the battery up, that copper gets plated onto parts of the battery it should not be on. The copper should only be in the copper plate, not being deposited everywhere else. So you can eventually develop a short circuit. We can't say when. We can't say what will definitely lead to it and not lead to it. We can't say don't do this or do that. Well, don't let your batteries go below 2.5 volts because there's so many unknowns, because it depends so much on the conditions, temperatures, the amount of time before voltages. We just say don't go below 2.5, don't recharge battery. So it's a technical concept. Yes, it works. As something that vapors can do, no, just don't do it. Your battery, if you find out you're on a mech and you put your battery in the charger and it's 1.5 volts, okay, it just happened. Charge it up slow. Okay, don't do it again. But if you pull a battery out of the closet and it's sitting at 0.6 volts for the last 2 years, don't use it. Don't try to revive it. Memo 83, have you ever considered designing your own mech mod, and when can I buy it? It's something I've thought about for a long time, but it's something that, that if it was ever going to happen, it would be happening in secret, and there'd be an announcement made when it happened. It certainly wouldn't be anything I'd be able to talk about if it was happening, but got a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I found in my testing. A lot of the things that I see that I might improve a mech, I say in the video, and some things I don't talk about because they're things that I might like to do. Buster Shin, even the big four battery makers will have lemons in the millions of batteries they make. Yeah, the most often quoted number for field failure rates from the big manufacturers is 1 in 1 million cells. That's low. And a failure can just be the battery self-discharging in a month and just sitting there dead, a month later. The field failure doesn't mean an explosion. It can, but that's just a tiny percentage of this tiny percentage of the batteries that will go into a failure. Let's see. Memo 83's question. Oh, okay, the mech mod question. Brendan, do you recommend we use a charger that displays the voltage versus one that displays the charge percentage? Yes. Charge percentage is for anything within plus or minus 30% is useless because the charge percentage changes based on the battery and the charging current rate, how fast you're charging it. So it makes it simple for people to just go, okay, it's 50%, it's about half full. But it could be 35%, it could be 75%, depending on the battery. But for rough concepts of charging, it works out. But I recommend having a voltage display or just having a charger that handles everything for you. But if you need some kind of display, wow, am I screwing up that connector? Didn't realize how much I was jacking up the connector on this phone. And I moved it back to jack it up. Okay, it'll just encourage me to use this thing next time. So I'd say the voltage display is better, but then you have to understand what the voltage is telling you. Things like the battery will be brought up to 4.2 volts, and that's not when it's full. When it hits 4.2 volts, that's when the current starts dropping off. If you charge at 1 amp, it goes 1 amp up to 4.2 volts, and then unless the charge is designed to start scaling back the current before that, then the current starts dropping off as it tops off the battery at 4.2 volts. The current falls off, falls off, falls off. At about 1/10 the starting point, then if you're charging at 1 amp, at about 1/10 of an amp, the charger goes, we've done enough. Because you could charge that battery for 3 days and it would still be drawing current as the ions find the last of the little nooks and crannies. At a certain point you go, enough. We're charged enough. That last 2 milliampere hours isn't worth 3 days of charging. And you cut it off. And usually that's 1/10 the point. Eric, put battery Mooch in the front. Bo, interesting question. Mooch, what would you recommend for cleaning threads and contacts? I love Never Dull, N-E-V-R. And I forgot if there's a dash, dull, or just one word, N-E-V-R, no second E, dull. It's a nasty solvent-soaked cotton that you just pull some of the cotton off, comes in a silver tin. You see, if I had this wireless thing, I'd go up and get it, but I'm not going to pull these in and out and do that. And you can get those cotton, this wet cotton, down into the threads, smush it around, come back in a minute, and then let it soak in, and then start getting that in and out. It's fantastic for contacts, fantastic for threads. It doesn't affect a polish mod. There's no abrasiveness at all on it, so it won't change the appearance of the mod. And I love this stuff. Just use it with proper ventilation, and I wear nitrile gloves. But my hands are very sensitive. There's always some red marks in my hands somewhere from chemical sensitivities and stuff. So I don't wear the latex gloves. Nitrile, N-I-T-R-I-L-E. Brother Mooch, what do you think of the Garfalcon AL88? Haven't charged it. I've heard good things about it, but I heard good things about a lot of the chargers I tested, and they all have some good points and some bad points. And that's why I haven't recommended any chargers. Because we all want something completely different from a charger, and they'll have good points and bad points. And what I consider to be a total deal breaker in terms of a charger maybe not being accurate for a particular function, you may go, I'm never going to use that. I love all the other things. I'm going to buy it. The Gear Falcon, if the funds become available at some point, I'd love to get, because I need to get at least 2 of them for testing. I'd love to be able to test that one. Through the Mind, battery range. What do you think will be a new breakthrough in battery technology, and what are your thoughts on a gel-based battery? That was, I was referencing earlier with the solid-state battery. The gel is essentially, instead of taking the flammable liquid electrolyte, they call it, that allows the ions to flow back and forth between the positive and negative portion, they gel it. Now, that's what's supposed to be in a lithium polymer battery. The polymer is a reference to polymerizing, plasticizing, or gelling the electrolyte. That's a technology that's around now. The solid-state batteries, the true solid-state batteries, that's where they use a solid electrolyte, maybe glass or ceramic. That, I think we're 5 years away from that. There'll be samples now. There'll be a niche application that I'm sure will use it before then. But to be something that just appears in batteries, and they'll probably all be in the pouch cells, the flat pouch cells for a while. New breakthroughs. Things like the sodium batteries and some of the others that come along, but personally I think it'll be variations of solid state or safer batteries. These will be very low amp rated batteries made for energy applications, high capacity applications, because it's very hard to get ions to flow through glass. Think about it. You've got a sheet of glass separating the positive and negative part. You can't, getting ions to flow through a liquid is easy, which is why they use liquid electrolytes to help the ions flow the positive and negative portions. The flow through glass this is tougher than it looks. Did it look tough? I remember the blow up. Okay, that helps. And I don't remember what I was talking about. Anyway, solid state batteries. I think that'll probably be the next one just because they're in development now. The things like Toyota's, maybe using some of these developments. And who knows if they can get hemp going on there. That's a nice evolutionary step. Not revolutionary, that might take 10 years, but evolutionary, changing the material used in one part of the battery. That's the kind of stuff, those incremental steps. Those are the kinds of things that can come along every year or two. Sebastian Voss. I've been told cutting the legs of coils at same size as much as possible helps with the flow of current. Well, the resistance of your coil, is wherever you're making the clamp, and the resistance is everything, the legs and the coil. So if you shorten the legs, you are lowering the resistance, so it helps with the flow of current. But now you've got other issues. The coil is closer to the post. You can short circuit easier. It's further away from the airflow maybe, or if there's bottom airflow, maybe most of it's going up the outside now, not up the inside. So I'd say mount the coils best for the airflow that you have, for the atomizer you have, and don't worry about the length of the legs, because that all gets factored in when you measure the resistance of your coils, if that made sense. Hopefully it did. Looking, we got maybe another 10 minutes. Battery Mooch, what's the issue with latex? James Corellis. Latex gets dissolved by some chemicals. And since I don't know what chemicals are in Neverdull or any of the things that other people might use, I say don't use latex. Just use nitrile or more chemical resistant glove. Also, some people are allergic to latex, so it's just easier to recommend using nitrile just in case someone is allergic to latex. Stian, S-T-I-A-N, Stian Halvorsen. Actually, I like that name. I got a Nicore UM4, and when I let it charge automatically, the batteries only charge at the 4.16 to 4.18. And it has a 4.3 function, and then it gets up to 4.2. Is this setting okay? No. No. Do not use the 4.3 volt function for 4.2 point battery. The reason is 4.16 to 4.18 is normal charge voltage for a 4.2 volt charger. When you send current into a battery, it goes up to 4.2 volts, then the current starts dropping off, all the ions find the nooks and crannies. At a certain point, the charger goes, enough, I've been doing this long enough, and it stops charging. Well, the thing is, you've got literally ions stacked up at the inside of the battery in one point, at causing it to look like 4.2 volts. Those ions now will slowly drift to find the nooks and crannies. And as those ions redistribute evenly through the battery, its voltage is going to come down a little bit. Now, 4.18 volts is 20 thousandths of a volt less than 4.20 volts. It's completely normal. If you're dropping, particularly if you pull it instantly off the charger, I bet you, or if it's why it's in the charger, I bet you it's at 4.2 or close to it. But when you pull it off, it's going to drop down. If it drops much below 4.15 in 24 hours, that's an indicator that the leakage inside your battery, where ions can leak from one side to the other, an indication that the battery is aging. If it gets down to 4.15 or especially 4.1, that's an indication to change the batteries. But even if it is charging at 4.16 to 4.18, that's fantastic. That's like a 5 milliampere hour difference, nothing in terms of your usage, your vaping time, but the battery's happier because it's not being charged with higher voltage, and that helps extend battery life. Something like 4.05 volts, 4.1 volts can fundamentally extend the life of your battery. That's why 4.3 is a very bad idea. I think it's charged at a 4.13. You pull it out and measure the voltage or something, comes back to 4.2, you're stressing the hell out of that battery. Don't do it. Eric Halverson, Mooch, thanks for the advice. I've been using my copper paste cleaner for my Kennedy Vindicator switch. Is that bad? I don't know. Pastes are fine. If you're seeing damage, if it's just discoloring the copper, if it's not getting rid of the oxidation, don't use it. But if you get a toothbrush and you're scrubbing the paste off clean, that's another reason I like Neverdol. It comes off easily with a rinse later. I just use a toothbrush and soapy water. Then I dip in alcohol to displace the water. It dries quickly. It's your call. Look at the contact. Are you leaving deposits of your paste around? There's nothing inherently bad in using a paste. A lot of vapors use paste to clean their copper. See if I missed anybody. I think I don't not, but ask again if you're not sure. If you really want me to ask, oh, have I? Did I miss? Okay, I don't think there are. If I missed any super chats, I sincerely apologize. I'm zoomed in on chat and I don't see it when it flows over, but I was going to say, certainly, if I'm missing your question and you want to ask, super chat me. The money goes towards testing, and I will happily answer your question for money. Michelle Lynn, hello. Thanks for joining us. Checking for, let's try 2 more questions. Scrolling up, if I don't see any. Okay, that looks where I was before. Vaping Trucker, when you do voltage testing, and when I pulse and you say 0.16, does that mean the mech is hitting at 4.04 volts? No. Trucker, that means that the voltage drop that I'm reading, I get to use the whiteboard. Awesome. Little nerd things make me so happy. That's not going to work. It's too complicated. Oh, well. So usually just describe it. You've got Mike Burr. Thank you very much. That I saw. Boy, does that pop up clear when you got it zoomed in. Thank you. I appreciate the super chat. So Trucker, that voltage numbers that I'm reading that you see on the meter, that's a voltage drop measured, essentially the voltage drop through the atomizer, through the solid aluminum slug, and through the mech. So it's the total voltage drop at 30 amps. So if it says 0.16 volts at 30 amps, you can use Ohm's law to get the total resistance of that whole setup. What I have already done is measured the resistance of, Bo, thank you very much for the super chat. I've already measured the resistance of my atomizer and my battery slugs, and I subtract that resistance from the resistance I calculate for everything that you see in the test. And that gives me the resistance of the mech. And then from that, and using 30 amps and Watt's law, I can calculate the total power loss in the mech, and that's what I put in the table. But using the total voltage drop, since I use the same battery slug and the same atomizer for every test, we can also compare performance of mechs just by using the total voltage drop that I call out in my test. 0.16 volts, or if you got like the Admiral and copper, it'd be like 0.035 or something like that. Phil Lee, you just love the smell of the pen. Yeah, busted. What were the ones that were just incredible? It wasn't the dry erase markers. It was, oh, I don't remember. Childhood stuff there. Back before they put electricity in my block when I was a kid. All right, let's call this the last question. Cody Baumgarten, what's wrong with putting different mod batteries in a power bank? The problem with that is one of those batteries is going to discharge down to the low voltage cutoff before the others. Now, if it's a well-designed power bank, the power bank will go, whoa, we're going to stop here. If it's a badly designed power bank, it's going to go, I ain't stopping, we're just going to keep going. And that battery could be discharged down to a point where it could be damaged. If it's discharged down to 0 and it keeps going, essentially you're reverse charging it. That's a fantastic way to make a battery explode. This is why you want power banks or any device with good management of the batteries, but it's also reason to use the same battery, whatever number you need in any device. So they all, as much as we can, get them to discharge down at the same time. That also helps with performance. If you've got one battery that's going down to the low voltage cutoff point and the power bank goes, I give up, or the mod goes, we're done, you're done, even though you have lots of energy left in the other batteries. So use, married sets. Use the same batteries, purchased at the same time from the same company. If you've got one battery that goes belly up, well, take the other ones out and use those for flashlights. Or, if you got a 2-battery mod and one of those batteries reaches the end of its life, use that other one in a flashlight or something. Don't buy a new battery and pair those together. And that is today's Power Hour. I want to thank everybody for, oh, I can actually see now what I look like. Yeah. Oh well. Oh, why do glasses make me itch? I'll try to work out this horizontal vertical thing, though. I guess the vertical didn't work out so well. Don't know about the pot belly thing going on that I want to see that in all my videos. But I want to thank everybody for joining us here today, for your questions. Certainly, if you have any thoughts for things that I can do to improve it, I think I'm going to do one Wednesdays for lunch if this worked out, if enough people watch this, if anyone liked having it this time. And then also do another one maybe early Sunday evening before another vape show or something like that. Just flick that in there and get off a couple minutes before the guys get on, so everybody can go to that, because Sundays are great for me, and that I think that time period is free. And it still wouldn't be disastrously late for Europe, though. Midnight Monday morning, I don't know how many people are going to watch in Europe. But everybody, I want to thank you for watching. And I hope everybody has an awesome day. If I can figure out how to actually end the broadcast now. And take care all.